Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on your chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
You know how I know our listeners were going to tune in?
How?
They got a gift. I got it too. My grandma used to call it The Shining. Which is great.
I feel bad for you.
Because that's what we're talking about today.
Awesome.
So, welcome to Hollow Weekly. So this episode, this is going to be kind of a different episode, but this is one that we're going to have quite a bit of fun with here. So, George, why don't you tell our listeners what all we're going to be doing today and what brought it about?
Well, this is a passion project because
yes,
we're going to be talking about an amazing movie, but we're going to uncover something that I didn't realize about Nick, which was you had managed...
That I have The Shining.
Okay, there are two things we're going to cover today that I didn't realize about Nick. And the first is he has The Shining, and the second is he'd never watched it.
All the way through.
I
had seen clips. I knew like the big scenes and all other jazz, but I never sat down.
Well, you're a horror fan, so you probably picked it up in pieces almost entirely. But you had never sat down and watched it.
I kind of felt like I knew the film.
Right. So
without seeing the film. Exactly. So,
but you had the impulse to watch it entirely through.
Yeah.
That brought memories back to me about the first time I watched it. And I love this movie. So I was like, hey, let's get together and talk about what I get super excited when I find horror fans who haven't seen a particular something that's pretty legendary. And I didn't know I was sitting next to one. So
exactly. Well, here's the thing. So Alex had seen the film when she went to, I think she went to Austin Film Festival. They screened it. I don't know if it was like a digital or film projection. Either way, she saw it. She loved it. And so then in July, I went to go teach like a filmmaking camp at Stanford for like incoming college students, and so they had finished up this like shooting project. I was like, hey, here's a shot list. Go do these shots, see if you can get them. One group knocked it out, and I was like, well, why don't you recreate a scene from a movie? And there was a staircase right next to us, and I was like, because this is one of the scenes that I had known. I was like, why don't you recreate the scene from The Shining when Jack's, walking up the stairs with the axe? And so they were like, oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, I'm having these kids shoot this scene. I haven't even seen the whole fucking movie. And so then I watched a few clips from it while I was over there.
Right.
I watched that scene and the scene where Jack went to the bar. And like those two scenes alone are so fucking good. And then that's what got me to watch the whole movie through. And the more I think about this movie, the more I'm like, holy fuck.
Right.
It is really good.
Because this movie sits with you. Once you watch it, it just like it settles in, and that's you and I were talking right before we were recording. But like, I feel like this is one of those movies that's a gift because, one of the complaints that comes out of the field for horror fans is I've overwatched something, or they've overdone jump scares, or they can't get to me anymore. Because if you watch something too much, you become so familiar with it. That's like it. This movie changes over time. Like the movie I saw as like a 12-year-old and the movie I watched last week are not the same movie. Like it just hits you in totally different ways. So I'm just really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I was sitting through it and it was weird. I was thinking like, what am I going to say like on the show or like about the movie? And honestly, and I don't even know if I can even describe it, but like the movie felt like 5 or 6 like big scenes and then it was over, but like each of them were like super good. Like,
sure,
does that make sense?
Totally.
Like there's the one scene that I love that made me realize I loved the acting in that movie was when Jack's writing and then Wendy comes up. Wendy, right? I'm not saying that wrong. Okay. No. First time watching it, guys. Right. Don't kill me. When she comes up and he's just a total asshole to her, and he's like, I forget his lines exactly. He's like, you don't fucking come in here when I'm working. He says like, let me spell it out for you.
Let me explain something to you. Whenever you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me. And it will then take me time to get back to where I was. Understand?
You don't get close.
Right.
When I'm writing. And the way she was just kind of like shocked, like, what the fuck is up with this guy? And then she kind of like goes, oh, okay.
Right.
See why. I don't know why. I love that scene because I was just like, that's like right there.
Yep.
That's the part where you're like, oh no.
Right. And she's paralyzed. Like as a viewer, when you're watching it, you're like, wait, what? Why is he being such an asshole to her? Right. And she's paralyzed. She doesn't know what to do. And then he's like, so you don't come in here. And then she's like, okay. And then she doesn't do anything. And he's like, starting now.
That's it.
Right. And she's like, okay. And then she leaves because she was just paralyzed. Right. Which is part, that movie does that to you as a viewer. Like,
yes.
You're just stuck. Like, wait, what? And you don't know what to do, right? And you're in that position that she's in, which is like a great effect it has.
It's so good. But starting from like the beginning of...
Wait, so yeah, but before you... I'm curious about the circumstance of how you watched it. Like, how did that go down?
Oh, well, I was doing some work, and then I was like, oh, I just want to watch a horror movie. And so, in the back of my mind, I had thought about the Shining from watching a few clips. And then I saw it was on like Amazon Video, so then I threw it up on one of my monitors and I started watching it. So
you're watching it while you're working?
While I'm working.
In the day?
And during the day.
Okay.
Yeah. And like even just immediately as soon as it starts, like that music is so unsettling. Just wah, wah, wah. I was like, Jesus Christ, they're showing like this beautiful landscape and this is the music like they're picking for it. Like that doesn't make any sense. But like the music in that movie, holy shit, like it's just so tense. Even scenes like someone could be like, taking a dump and they're just gonna have those violin, those strings, just that this long eerie strings playing like that throughout the whole movie. Like that's the one thing I noticed like right away. Right. Was the sound in the film. Like just like, the music, it just unsettles you from like the very beginning, like the opening shot. Like you get no time to breathe, which we were, with the whole feeling paralyzed, like the music sort of like it opens you up, and then when that scene happens, when you feel paralyzed, the music holds you down. It's like, it's a great way to put it. It's like no, you're gonna feel this way right until the credits roll. Get used to it. But the music, holy shit, yeah, it's so good.
So you watched it in one swoop, or you paused it and came back to it?
Paused it and came back.
Okay.
So even doing that, like now I want to see it like in a theater where like I don't want to get up. I think it might feel
just experience it.
It might be a better experience, but I still just watching it on like one of my monitors while working was still good enough for me to enjoy it and be like, yeah, and like I'm still thinking about it, like like when I was getting my hair, I went to go get my hair cut, and I was just thinking about how funny it'd be to tell whoever it was I was going to cut my hair. She's like, what, how do you want to cut? And I would go, well, I got 2 20s and 2 10s here in my pocket.
Right, totally.
I just fucking love
That's
this
great.
movie.
That's fantastic.
It's so good. I wish I would have saw it sooner.
It's funny you say about, I mean, everyone who talks about the movie eventually talks about the music, but it's funny you bring it up the way you did, because like my first experience of seeing this movie was I was probably 12, and I had the distinct impression when it came on that a mistake had been made, that I wasn't supposed to be seeing this.
Yeah,
and it's the music that like. The music got so intense and seemed so wrong. It seemed like someone put the wrong music with the wrong images. Yeah, that I turned it down, and then when I saw people's lips moving, I started turning it up so I could hear what they're saying. I didn't have closed captioning at the time, and then when the music I would turn it down because the music was too much for me at the time. Right, I was battling the music.
Yeah. I found myself doing that too.
Really?
Yeah. On the little Amazon player.
Because it's too much, right? Like
sometimes it gets really, really, really loud.
Yeah, and it's also wrong, right? Like it's like, I mean, it's right for what he was trying to accomplish, but it's wrong for what you're seeing, especially if you're seeing it like the first time, or you're not sure what is being presented to you. So like I was fighting the music of it, but the first non-illness induced hallucination I ever had was caused by this movie.
No way.
Swear to God. I watched it entirely. Super unsettling. Like really, really scary to me. And then it was over. And I left the room where the TV was that I watched it. I went and did something else. And I came back and I heard like this skitch sound in my head, and I couldn't identify where it was. And I turned around, and there's in my house where I grew up, there were two Egyptian style paintings on the wall. My dad was in the furniture business, so we had weird shit all around all the time. And the paintings were swaying on the wall, and the corners of them were scratching on the wall, right? And I thought like there was an earthquake or something. And then I went, I freaked out, and I was like, what's happening? And I went around the whole house to check what was happening, and nothing else was out of place. And I went back, and there were no scratch marks, and nothing was moving. And it could not have happened. It was just like my kid brain telling me that like
Things are moving.
right,
Yeah.
something bad was going down. And the fact that movie like caused me to start like hallucinating in daytime, like was like, I was like, there's something going on with this movie, right? So I knew it was powerful, but I didn't come back to it for a while. So that was the first time I saw it.
Jesus. So do you remember, like, was it a part in the film that like clicked with you and you were like, holy shit, this is scary? Or was it afterwards? Because for me, it was afterwards.
Yeah,
when I
sat and thought about it. Well, I mean, I'm not sure the film's ever going to click with me, because I have a feeling there's so much amazing shit hidden in there that it like no one can ever get to the bottom of it. But I mean, the first time I saw it, what connected to me were just the big visuals.
Yeah.
It wasn't the characterization. I wasn't following really I was too young. I wasn't following the plot so much, and the dynamics between the characters. All that stuff was kind of over my head. It was just the big visuals. I remember thinking that the elevators with the blood coming out of them, like the things on top of them that tell you what floor you're on, look like eyebrows to me, eyes and eyebrows, right? So the elevator looked like just this big bloody face. And it freaked me out. And that was the thing, was that was what was connecting me were like the frozen maze, the axe through the door, the bloody elevators. It was the twins, the fucking stroller, whatever the kid's riding in the
little tricycle.
Like those were the things that really connected with me and made me feel like I couldn't trust everyday objects. And I think that's why I hallucinated the painting thing, because I think one of the messages I took from it for the first time I saw it was, you can't trust everyday objects.
Yeah. There was man, I'm still thinking, like, you mentioned like the axe scene, like, which is I think probably the most famous scene
for sure
in that film, and then like kind of like in like film history. But like, I'm still really caught up with the scene where he's in the bar talking to the bartender.
Hi, Lloyd. Been away, but now I'm back.
Good evening, Mr. Torrance. It's good to see you.
It's good to be back, Lloyd.
Like, I don't know what it is about that scene that I just loved his interaction with like the bartender, and just like how fucking, like, you can tell like just how he's starting to wig out.
Totally.
I don't know what it was for that scene. And then I think,
well, wait, funny story. I actually know this from reading an essay on the movie. The actor who played the bartender, he had worked with Stanley Kubrick years and years and years before. I think more than a couple decades, probably. And loved his experience and wanted to was so excited to work with Stanley Kubrick again. Even though he puts his actors through hell. Like that, the bar scenes were like hundreds of takes. But he said that Stanley Kubrick hated to be touched. You never touched him. Like you couldn't hug him or shake his hand. Like he was like, he hated physical contact. So he felt really friendly with him, but he felt like, I tried to hug you once and you shot me this look like you wanted to kill me. So I'm never going to do it again. Right? And he said when they were done shooting all of the bartender scenes, Stanley Kubrick walked up to him and said, it was really good to work with you again. I already know you're one of the best things in my movie. And the bartender said, don't wait 20 years to hire me again. I love working with you. And he said he went to shake his hand. He was like, I'm just going to be brave because this seems to be a moment. And he shook his hand, and Stanley Kubrick gave him like a half hug. Mm-hmm. Like came and put a hand on his shoulder. And he was like, I was so moved I didn't know what to do. You know, paralyzed again, right? He was like, I didn't know what to do. And then he walked away, and he said, that was the last time I ever saw him.
That's a touching story.
Right?
I mean, it's kind of sad, but like, it's kind of that's a nice story.
Just the care that went into the making of those scenes and the number of takes and how it was, you know, set up and framed and how much work they put in.
It's flawless.
Exactly.
Like I can watch those scenes over and over again, and like I don't know, and
there's so little happening.
Yeah, but
it's so entertaining.
Like we were talking about the documentary Room 237 and how it's like some people like take everything way out of proportion about some. I mean, I don't know if the documentary does. I'm sure they have a lot of cool shit in it.
I hate that documentary.
Why? But like most people, like they'll watch, you know, a lot of those scenes and like nitpick every fucking little detail and be like, this means that, this means that. And I'm sure it does to some level.
Sure.
But like, I don't give a fuck about any of that. Like, just like it's so basic. This one scene, this guy talking to this guy who's not even fucking there. Maybe he's there. I still don't fucking know.
Right.
And that's it. Just a conversation between those two dudes.
Yep.
And that fucking scene blew me away.
Yep.
He's just fucking talking.
Yep.
And there's nothing like even like crazy important. Like
no, and it's
shit.
endlessly rewatchable, and that's, you know,
that's
like
what I find so fascinating
respect,
about it.
I respect the principle of patient observation. If you're looking at something to try to understand it better or be smart about it, like I totally respect that. It's so I have this analogy in my head actually about I don't like the documentary Room 237 because I feel like it was purposefully constructed in a way to make the people contributing to it look like they were nuts. Mm-hmm. And some of them might be, some of them might not be, some of them might be varying degrees of nuts, but like, you know, you as a director, you get the final say. And the way he put it together, he was like, just everyone in this movie is nuts. And I'm just going to, I'm better than you because I'm in charge. Right. So I'm not a big fan of that, like whatever, but I also like the analogy in my head that bothers me here is, I'm not personally a big fan of the digging into The Shining for these messages that are like one-note messages. Mm-hmm. So here's how I think about it. If Jack the Ripper retired from killing, said, I'm done, and got bored in his retirement and took up painting, so, you know, and he paints some paintings, and then at the end of his life, he's old, he's dying, or whatever, he's cancer, and he decides he's going to paint one last painting and put a whole bunch of clues in the painting that he was actually Jack the Ripper, right? And you discover these clues, right? You have now discovered that Jack the Ripper left clues who he was in a painting. And that's exciting because you've just discovered who Jack the Ripper, the serial killer, is. Mm-hmm. If you spend the rest of your life studying the painting techniques of Jack the Ripper, then you've missed the point. Mm-hmm. Because the most important thing Jack the Ripper did was be a serial killer. Yeah. Not be a painter who left clues about being a serial killer, right? If Stanley Kubrick was faking the moon landing for Hollywood or the government, or he was talking about the Holocaust, or he was talking about Native American issues in The Shining, even if he did all of those things, they're still the second most important thing he ever did behind being a movie maker. Right? So people who are like, I'm going to spend years figuring out what Stanley Kubrick was leaving messages in The Shining about how he worked on faking the moon landing, which is part of Room 237 and a common conspiracy theory or whatever.
People buy that shit?
Yeah, good. Yeah, but good for you. Like, if you think you find clues for that, but personally, I'm going to let you have that because even if you prove it, it's still way down the list of the most important things Stanley Kubrick ever did. Yeah. Right? He made 2001. I mean, The Shining. He made like Paths of Glory. He's like he's the director that Steven Spielberg looks up to. That's the most important thing about him, right? So it's passingly interesting. If Jack the Ripper, if the art museum hung his paintings on a wall, I'd visit it for a day, but I wouldn't stay there for 2 years and stare at the wall.
You go on to the next.
Exactly.
Next couple.
So I feel like the people who are digging that far down for those kind of messages are sort of missing like the forest for the trees.
And when you do that kind of shit, like you can do it with any fucking movie. And then you can just do that for years. Like I could pull up like, I don't know, The Descent and come up with a million fucking different things like those same people do. It's weird that The Shining is the one though, that they really put all the effort
Kubrick
into.
is, I mean, he was like an incredibly intelligent man who was also a master chess player. So I think he was a big fan of, hiding some things. But the main purpose of what he's doing is in service of the main thing he spent his life doing, which is making movies. Mm-hmm. It's not to teach you about the horrible things that happen to Native Americans. Even if that's in there as a slice of this one particular pie.
Yeah.
It's not even if he meant it to be the most important thing he's saying, which I don't believe, it still wouldn't be, because the most important thing he did wasn't lecture people on American Indian rights. It was make movies.
Yeah, it was like, first things first.
All right, so I leave that to the other people for
they can have it
for those explorations. I respect like intelligent observation and picking out of details, but I don't like. Personally, the main interest to me is what the main mission behind something was, and the main mission of we wouldn't be talking about this person if he wasn't putting together things that were incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and masterpieces of what they are, which is movies, right? Do you think you're going to watch it again?
I want to watch it again, like right now, or maybe not even the whole thing, but just even like just the few scenes that I still really enjoyed.
Right.
There's just something about them. They're so fucking like simplistic. You know what I mean? Like there's something really simple about them, but like you have any other filmmaker go try to do those scenes, they're not going to come out that way. Which is why I'm so fascinated with with the movie.
Right. That's the thing is like in Eyes Wide Shut, which I personally love, which almost everyone hates. It's there are scenes of literally Tom Cruise just walking down the street in a city that are just mysteriously watchable. You're like, why the fuck is this entertaining? Like I'm thinking to myself, what is happening? Like
the cinematography in the movie too.
Yeah.
Like in all of his films. Like I watched like some video essay about how like a lot of his shit is always like very like centered frame. So like the
to the vanishing point, right? Like the center of the.
He's like dead. Like the scene where Jack's at the bar, like he's dead fucking center.
Sure. The twins in the hall.
Yeah, like everything about it, like his movies are just shot so beautifully. Like everything about like the whole movie is just butter, man. Like I love the shit out of it, and like even like the camera movements. Of the steady cam shots of like the going down the hall or like the wheelchair, whatever the fuck they use, both. Because I know he was like one of the first guys to jump on the steady cam thing. But like when Danny's going around the corner, like it's just so smooth the way it goes the corner. It's not like the whole film, like that his whole thing, like it feels like it's just moving smoothly, like it's well oiled, like there's nothing scary, which also adds this weird calmness to the film.
Exactly.
So like you think about like a lot of other directors, like if they did there'd be some like, maybe it depends on who it is, but they would do like a lot of like handheld stuff.
But think about something like Blair Witch. There's chaos, there's things flying off the ground when you run.
And if you think about like how that makes you feel, like if the camera's shaking and running down, like you feel that energy. But like, and that's what I loved about The Shining is everything.
This is anti-energy.
Everything is just calm. It's like nothing's wrong here. Just a hotel. Your dad's losing shit. It's just a hotel. Right. Everything's fine. Even the scene when he's when Wendy's walking up backwards up the stairs, and Jack's going after her. It's like there's like the coverage they got for it, like the way they're framed up, and the camera is just slowly going up and slowly going back when it switches, perspectives, and like everything just feels so calm,
right,
in that film. Now, like if they added a bunch of shaky cam, it would have broke that tension, which is why I fucking love the music,
totally,
in this movie, because the music picks up so much, like it does so well.
And think about it, like everything is going to hell, and it still feels so calm. Like that is not.
Yeah,
a normal execution of that.
And with the other thing is without the shaky cam, like as an audience, you're able to take in like all that information, and everything is crystal fucking clear to you. like I just, and even like the close-ups and like inserts they had of like this is the part that made me feel terrified.
Okay.
Which was weird because I watched it in the daylight on like one of my monitors. Like it just wasn't, it was there, but it was towards the end when Wendy started seeing like the skeletons like sitting in the chair.
Sure.
First of all, the shots are fucking cool. I love like they're just, it's like this blue cobwebs and skeletons everywhere.
Right.
I don't know, those shots just I don't know, but those close-ups with that with the music of the skeletons, that wigged me out for some reason, and I don't know why. It wasn't like a jump scare. We're like, oh my god, that scared me.
No, I think I know why, and that's kind of like, so I'm so excited for when some time passes and you watch this the next time to talk about it the next time. Because what really interests me is this movie changes over time, like we talked about, and I think the reason that scene really bothered me too, the skeletons and all of the things around it, and I think it's because it's the fulfillment of something the movie was trying to do that is anti-you.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing, that the last time I watched this movie last week, there was, like, I don't know what other people's experience of The Shining is, and I'd love for people to message us or send things to us and kind of describe their experiences, because it's amazing how much one little detail can change everything, right? So The Shining is so hard to figure out, and I realized I hadn't really ever thought about what the principle of The Shining is for the movie. I know from the book. I know what it sort of represents, like, as a psychic ability, right? But the movie itself tells you, okay? So there's a scene where Halloran is sitting in the kitchen with Danny giving him ice cream, right? And Danny turns to him directly and asks him, as a person who's been at the hotel, is something bad here at this hotel? And he answers with, Doc, when something happens, it can leave a trace of itself behind. Say, like, if someone burns toast. Maybe things happen and they leave other kinds of traces behind. Not things anyone can notice, but things people who shine can see. Right? So the principle of The Shining is that you can see traces of things left behind that other people can't see.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's the ability to see into the past as well as the future, but it's about traces, right? So this is what happened to me the last time I watched it, thinking about traces being left behind, right? So I'm gonna walk you through this real quick. The first shot is a helicopter tracking shot across water that's not moving. It's not rippling. So if a helicopter was there, the water would be moving, but it's not moving. It looks like a mirror, totally still, right? The next shot is Jack driving in his car to an interview on a windy road in a forest, and the camera keeps leaving like the car's not really there and showing you what it looks like when the car's not there, and then back to the car. This car is on a journey and it's leaving no trace. He's not throwing litter out the window. Like as soon as he's gone, everything's going to be the way it was, just like the water is staying the way it was. Like these are people traveling with leaving no trace that they were ever there, right? So then when you think about what Jack's job at the hotel is going to be, okay, he's a caretaker. So here's his job. His job is the winter's going to come. His boss tells him that the winter can be fantastically cruel, which is a phrase that I love in the movie for a horror movie, right? And he goes, here's your job. You protect the hotel, make sure nothing changes. And then after the winter's over, when the sucky time to be here is over, you leave and there's no trace you were ever here. His job is to make sure nothing changes.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Heat the hotel, make sure nothing breaks, no pipe breaks. If something breaks, fix it. Your job is to make sure that when you leave, it's like you were never here, right? This is the job he's applying for, right? So then when I realized the violence that's happening in this family, like Jack got drunk one day and dislocated his son's shoulder. There's no trace left behind of that happening. His shoulder heals. The trace is mental and emotional. Like now his wife doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
100%, rightfully so. His son probably doesn't trust him 100%, rightfully so.
They shouldn't while they're smoking them cigarettes around their son.
Right, totally, right.
Secondhand smoke. Oh, the shoulders will got me.
But what happens is everything gets put back the way it was. There's no trace, no physical trace, no sign, right? So then what does the movie lay on you next? Danny goes to room 237, gets attacked by the ghost, comes down to see his mom, and he's got strangle marks on his throat.
Yeah.
And she blames Jack because he's already hurt his son once. And she takes her son away because she wants to protect her son from being around the abusive father. He's like, I don't know what the hell happened because he's been dreaming and sitting.
His reaction was really weird too. She like walks away and he's just like,
what are you going to do? Right? Well, he gets mad in a second later when he goes down the hall, but his initial reaction is kind of stunned, right? But now there's marks. There is a trace of something happening. So now that there's this trace of thing happening, Jack gets mad and goes to the gold room where the bar is, where your bartender is. And there's an amazing scene here where if you blink, you miss it. But if you look close, there's a woman that walks past Jack in the ballroom, and she's got a red or bloody handprint on her ass. Okay.
I've looked up the image. It looks like a design.
Right. Exactly. Of course.
Trident or whatever.
Right. But what the weird thing is that his wife is accusing him of laying hands on their son. Now you've got handprints on a neck. Now you've got what look like handprints on a woman. He's possibly cheating on his wife with a ghost in room 237, touching her and holding her. And now they've got guilty handprints popping up in the movie everywhere, right? And he's down in this bar drinking, and his wife has talked to the son, and the son's like, no, Dad didn't attack me. It was a woman. It's a woman in room 237. So she runs into the bar to tell him. And this should be a big moment of relief for him. Like he was on the hook. Like you were hurting your son. Now his wife is back on his side. She's like, no, I talked to Danny. It was like, whatever. He's down there at the bar drinking, but there's no bartender and there's no alcohol.
Yeah.
This is the fantasy of any isolated alcoholic ever. And it's the worst thing that could happen to them. He can drink all he wants. There's no smell. There's no bartender. There's no sign of booze. There's no trace of the bad things that he's doing, right? So she comes down and she's like, someone attacked Danny. And he turns to her with these drunk eyes and he's like, are you out of your fucking mind? Because he's angry because he's drunk, but no one knows because there's no trace, right? So wait, it gets better with the trace thing, right? So as this is happening, right, what the amazing thing to me next is that, you look at all hell's gonna break loose right now in the movie. What the guy who hired Jack, Stuart Ullman, said was depreciation of the value of the hotel. You want to talk about traces now? Doors are going to get broken up with axes. Bodies are going to be on the floor. Bloodstains are going to be everywhere. The snowcat's disabled. The radio equipment's broken, right? Like everything's starting to break down. There's traces of like all hell breaking loose everywhere. The hotel's value is going to drop. Like they got to clean all this shit up.
Yeah.
Right? And while this is happening, Dick Halloran, who's been contacted by little Danny, is coming to save them. And this poor guy is leaving tracks everywhere. Like he's in a snowcat. He's leaving tracks in the snow. He walks in a hotel. He's leaving tracks everywhere. And what happens to him? He gets killed because that's not how this movie works. If you can't get away with things without leaving a trace, you're fucked, right? He's done, right? He's done. So,
which would make sense. I know where you're going. No,
right. So then, Wendy hits Jack in the head with a bat. The weird thing to me is, and I looked at it as close as I could. Jack doesn't take care of himself. He's got a huge gash in his head when she locks him away. You don't see it later in the movie. But when Wendy's going around the hotel seeing all of a sudden traces of all kinds of stuff that happened there, ghosts, skeletons.
My favorite part.
Right? She turns the corner and the guy in a tuxedo, who's the owner of the hotel, the ghost, he's standing there with a glass and he looks at her and he goes, great party, isn't it? And he's got
the guy with the
gash in his head. Well, why does he have a gash in his head? Well, Jack doesn't have a gash in his head anymore. Now this guy has a gash in his head. She's staring at someone who's drinking, which her husband is doing, with a gash in his head.
Oh, get out of here.
And his is gone.
This
Right?
is making me love the movie a lot more.
Right, exactly. Because, it's all about the mistakes you make, the bad decisions you make, what traces you leave behind. But wait, this is my favorite part of what the movie does. While all of this is happening, and all of these, like this principle of what traces you leave behind, guess who's been paying attention to this lesson for the whole movie without anyone knowing it? Just close attention. Danny. Mm-hmm. And how do you know that?
I know, yeah.
How does he beat his dad?
I know how. Yeah. That's
He
what.
beats his dad in the maze by backtracking on his steps and leaving no trace of where he went. His dad's behind him,
Leaving.
saying, I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you. I'm coming for you now. I'm going to get you, right? And Danny backtracks, jumps sideways, and then there's no trace because he's learned the lesson that the movie told you, which was if you can figure out how to do, people do bad things all the time without leaving a trace. But if you can figure out how to do a good thing without leaving a trace, it makes you powerful, like in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like giving to a charity without signing your name.
Yeah.
There's no trace that you did it. It's just a 100% pure good thing, right? Danny's learned, and he figures out how to beat his dad by leaving no trace of where he went. His dad doesn't know what happened because no one's ever pulled this on him before, right? He's not ready for this. And the fucked up thing about it to me is you think about the phrase, follow in your father's footsteps.
Yeah.
This situation is the opposite. You've got a dad who's getting more and more cartoonish, more incoherent, talking more like grunts, like not like an adult, like a child. There's great use Stanley Kubrick puts in the movie of like little clips where you hear the Roadrunner on TV behind, and there's like music playing like he's gonna get you, the Roadrunner if he gets you, like, and Jack's getting crazier and crazier, but also like somehow like younger and less articulate, and basically he travels back in time to get drinks, right? So everything's going backwards. And now you have this phrase, follow us, following your father's footsteps, and you've got a father following in his son's footsteps, because everything is going backwards, and he's time traveling, and you know where he ends up, going backwards, 1920, right, in the picture, 4th of July, right, like that, and really weird to me is, like, the thing that I was like, that gave me a chill, like the way a horror movie can like really get in your bones and unsettle you without a jump scare, is that last shot is so desolate. Jack's yelling to Wendy for help. She was taking care of him for the whole movie, doing his cooking, wanting to bring him sandwiches, just wanting to be good.
Yeah.
He rejected the whole time, and now he's yelling for help, and they're gone, right? They're leaving. They're in the snowcat that Halloran brought. He brought the one's broken over here. He brought another one, right? And they take off in his tracks. They go in his tracks that he left behind, literally backtracking down the road.
Wow.
No trace of actually them. It could just be him, right? And that's how the movie ends. That's what I'm saying is when you rewatch the movie from a standpoint of, I watched it once when I'm younger and it was scary and like whatever. And then you start to notice that there's these details in it, but you wonder why is there a handprint or a design on this person? Why is this moment like this? Why is this music disjunct with what just happened in the scene? This movie's trying to accomplish something, right?
Yeah.
And whatever the people think about the conspiracy theories about like moon landings or whatever, like to me as a movie, what the movie's trying to accomplish is it's trying to tell you that your mistakes are going to leave traces no matter what. And your good things don't have to leave traces. They just have to leave a heritage that you try to do something good, right? That makes it really powerful to me.
That's more interesting than faking the moon landing. I like that story better,
Right?
than all that other bullshit.
Right.
I don't know. That's the one thing that broke my heart though is what's the character's? I know it's Scatman. Like what's his character's name?
Halloran.
Halloran?
Dick Halloran.
I was so sad when he got it. And then I haven't read the book, but I think he lives in the book. Is that correct?
He does.
He does? Okay. That made me feel good. I was like, all right. So I spliced.
He's only half dead.
I spliced that part of the film out and replaced it with whatever the book has of him living.
Yeah, but see, that's also part of the thing that's happening in this movie that is really sad when you think about it. Is like pretty much everyone notices this if they pay attention to it. Is and our fans on the Hello Weekly Facebook page, they noticed this because we asked a question like we're wont to do of the fans where we said, name a horror movie character who's really bad at their job.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of Jack Torrance sucks as a caretaker.
Yeah.
Right? Which is totally true. This guy does no work. Like his wife does everything.
He didn't even write.
He didn't even, well, he wrote, but,
But
he typed.
Right? He typed. He didn't write.
Right. He didn't really, yeah, exactly. His book is not going to leave many traces behind of bestseller. So, right. But, while he's busy not working, like, his wife's getting better at doing things you need to do in the hotel. His son's getting better at figuring out what life represents. Jack's only getting worse. And the only thing that he's getting better at is he hates manual labor. Like he says that multiple times in the movie. He's a teacher and then he's a writer. This is not someone who like fixes cars and like whatever. And he gets into a huge fight with his wife where she says, we got to go leave the hotel and take Danny to a doctor. And he's like, you always fuck everything up for me. Like, now I'm going to leave. I'm going to blow my responsibilities here.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, what am I going to do? Go home and clean bathrooms or work at a car wash? Like, that's in his head. Like, he doesn't, he wants to move up. He doesn't want to be a person who works with their hands or blue collar or like whatever. He looks down on that, right? But funny thing is, the only thing he gets better at in the movie is physical stuff. He gets better with an axe. Right? I mean, when he starts, he sucks at it actually, right? And he gets better at it, right? He gets better at throwing tennis balls, right? He gets right? Like he's only getting better at really, really manual things, right? Like I don't know if he's a good writer or not. All I know is he's pretty good at chopping on doors.
Getting lost in a maze.
He's good at pulling things out of machines so they don't run anymore. So he fucked his family over, right? Like, yeah, he's only getting better at the things that he looks down on, which I find interesting that happens in the context of the movie because I feel like he's like if he stood back and realized that was what was happening to him with his ego, it would drive him crazy or break his heart. I'm not sure which.
Probably both at the same time, just very, very fast.
Probably.
The one thing that I also noticed is because this comes up in horror a lot for whatever reason. I don't know why, but people always love to talk about like the child actors in horror.
Yes.
What'd you think of Danny?
I loved him.
Liked him?
Loved him. Honestly, I loved him. I don't have a lot to say about his acting just because I felt like, the visuals that he represents, the wide-eyed fright, the like I got to admit, like the first time I watched the movie, it scared the crap out of me so bad that I wasn't going to nitpick anything. The second time I watched it as a teenager, probably I could have done without the whole Tony thing. That kind of bothered me. The talking finger, the voices, like it just seemed kind of cheesy, right, to me at the time. So, like, that was, I don't know, it bothered me a little, but like, that's not what he's there for. Right?
Yeah.
Like what he's there for is his reactions are what's driving a lot of what scares the crap out of you in the movie, right? He turns a corner and before you even see what he's seeing, his reaction is signaling to you, holy shit, right? And he's so good at that. Like, and I think that's what the movie asked of him. And, I thought he was great. What about you? Did you?
I honestly didn't have a problem with it. I immediately, for some reason now, I always compare like one child actor to the kid in the Babadook because everyone always says like, oh, he's so loud and annoying, and I'm like, I fucking loved him for that reason. Like he's supposed to be annoying. He's got a shit mom who's going through a bunch of shit right now.
Right,
life's not great, so he's doing whatever. And I sort of thought the same thing. I thought the finger thing was a little weird.
Right.
But like when he sees like the twins, like his wide-eyed thing, I was like, that's exactly how if I was his age, he probably took it better than I did. I would have like probably pissed my pants. Right. No, but I thought he was great, and I know a lot of people say that Shelley Duvall's character is annoying. Because you know she just takes it. She's like, okay, Jack, I'll do this, I'll do that, or she's really like screaming all weird and always like, ah! Right. But like that worked for me too in the movie. I'm like, if I was if I was her, I'd be screaming like that too the whole time. I'd be shocked because like you know your husband tells you, he's like, get the fuck out starting now, like all that other stuff. Like, what else are you gonna do? You're snowed in. Like, you're gonna fight him? Like, I mean, probably, yeah. I'd probably, like, if I ever did, I get the shit beat.
Well, she saves her son, and that's, I thought she was fantastic. I think she gives a fantastic performance, and if I was, honestly, I feel like we talked about this, but I feel like the bartender stole a lot of the movie for me. Like, me too. He is just like locked in as him, right?
And the former caretaker, right? The guy who spills the stuff on Jack.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about him. He's
Jesus
amazing.
Christ. Like, at first, with like the bartender, I didn't know if he's just going to be in this one scene. But what I love that he was the one who was just like, what your wife's doing. Your son contacted the one guy. And he's like, I loved how he was like
that's Grady, the caretaker, in the bathroom, and he's telling him like, your son's trying to bring an outside person into the situation, which, by the way, is the worst thing you can say to someone who's in the grip of alcoholism, because the last thing they want is an intervention.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So like the hotel is manipulating how to anger Jack at this point, right? But like that scene, like the transference of power in that scene is one of the most masterful things I've ever seen in a movie. When they're heading into the bathroom, Jack Nicholson is totally in charge. Yeah. The guy's bowing down to him, trying to rub alcohol off his shirt, getting rid of a trace of a problem. And he's steering into the bathroom saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He literally says to Jack Nicholson puts a handprint. He puts a handprint on this guy. I forgot there's a handprint. He puts on his back. Yeah, on his back, right? And he goes, you got a little on you, Jeevesy, like, because he's, he doesn't know his name yet. And the guy's like, oh, that's not important. You're the important one. Like, he's all the power is in Jack Nicholson's corner, right? And they go into the bathroom, and if you look at the scene, the butler, Grady, who's taller than Jack Nicholson, is consistently shorter through the first half of that scene because he's bowed down and wiping his coat, right? And then he gets taller, and then he gets taller. And if you look at how it's shot, Jack Nicholson thinks, I'm a higher class than this guy. This guy's a servant. Like, I may be wearing jeans, but this guy is a servant. I'm better than him, at least, right? The way the scene's shot, on the left side of the screen is Grady, sinks and mirrors, and the fancy alcohol drink. On the right side is a bourbon and urinals with Jack. I mean, Kubrick is just visually fucking with, you're not in charge, right? And this butler he stands up straighter and straighter, and then he looks him dead in the eye, and he's like, do you know your son is trying to do this?
Before that, didn't Jack mention, he's like,
you chopped up your...
Yeah, you chopped up your thing. I loved that part. Amazing. He just looks at him like, no.
Right. He's like, I don't recall that. But he actually, like, literally 90 seconds later, walks him through the story of how he killed his family, which is a little confusing, except for, I mean, the way I take that is, like, the hotel, everyone, all the ghosts in the hotel are basically in a constant state of either doing their job or partying, right? Yeah. And Grady's just going around doing his job, like being the butler. And they get manipulated into the bathroom where the hotel can possess Grady and send Jack a message. And the message, when the hotel inhabits Grady, he gets fierce. I mean, he looks so intimidating at the end of that scene. He's like, I want to be at this hotel. I love this place. I do my duty. And if my family gets in my way of doing my duty, I correct them.
Yeah.
What do? And Jack's like, my wife's interfering, bitch. And like, my son's, out of control. Which is also
kind of funny. He mentions that because before that, when Jack's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go home and do all this? He's like, I'm not going to break my contract. Same thing. That guy. Yeah.
He starts talking about duty and obligation and responsibilities. Right. Exactly. Because that's the message the hotel is sending, like, over and over to manipulate, right? But or it's what he needs to buy into or whatever. But it's just the whole scene is it's heartbreaking watching someone think they're in a certain position where literally Jack Nicholson is so cocky walking into the bathroom, he makes his best joke of the whole movie. He's walking into the bathroom with the alcohol on his coat, and he goes, I forget what Grady says exactly, like you're it's ruined or whatever, like, and Jack's like, don't worry, I was going to change my jacket before the fish soiree. Because he's like, I'm part of this huge party. Like I'm fucking F. Scott Fitzgerald now. Great Gatsby time. Like, you know, he's feeling like in control, and he has no idea you're about to be stood next to a urinal, Blair Witch in the Corner style, and the hotel's about to tell you kill your family, and you're going to be like, okay.
Yeah, I got to correct him.
Right.
And even when he reappeared, which I was really glad he did, because he was just like the little shit of the hotel. I liked him when he started talking to Jack when he was locked up into the not the freezer, but like the storage room or whatever. I loved that. He just like giving him updates of like, you know, you got to do something.
Yeah. We've met as a committee of ghosts, and we feel like maybe we're backing the wrong horse. Maybe we should back your wife because she seems to be stronger than you. He's like, no, give me a chance.
I loved that scene.
Right?
That was just like, it was like another like locker room.
Tell me what you thought about the door getting opened for him. So he's locked in there.
Yeah.
He says, give me one chance. You don't see Grady. You never see him in this scene. You only hear him. You never see him. He's talking to him through the door. And Jack Nicholson says, no, I will with extreme measures, I will take care of my family if you just let me out of here. And you hear and the door opens. Who opened the door?
I don't know.
Right?
Well, I mean, I think I know.
Right.
But how? Or, you know.
Because it's the first time everything else in the movie.
I didn't even think about it.
Right?
I was just like, he's out.
Right. Everything else in this movie up to this point has been a visual hallucination. You see twins, you see bloody elevators, you see whatever, but there's no poltergeist. There's no clowns flying around. There's no, right? And then he's trapped.
Yeah, because the wife didn't let him out. She's like,
obviously.
No, no chance in hell.
Well, maybe obviously. It is a Kubrick movie. But that's what I'm saying is he's standing in there talking to Grady, and then his wife has him safely trapped. She's just going to go down the hill. Everything's going to be fine. And all of a sudden the door opens.
I didn't even cross my mind. It was just, for me, it was just he's out. He's out. This is where the film is now. Let's see where this takes us. I always thought, I for some reason, and thinking back on it, which is again why I'm starting to really dig this movie, is I thought for some reason she might have like unlocked it and then like took off.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now that like we're talking about it, like there's no way. What? She would never do that. She was like, no. And it wouldn't.
Well, she was tempted to open the door, and it's
because he was trying to be like, you know, oh, you know, that other. Yes.
And that sucked. That scene bothered me so bad. I hate when people, emotionally are manipulating in movies. Like, it bothers me where he's like,
I didn't like
he's
it
like,
either.
oh, I'm hurt. My head hurts.
And it was shot cool too. We talked about that shot.
Yes.
The camera's like on the ground looking up, and like his hair is just kind of like all, and he's like looking down, sort of not looking at the camera, but the way it was shot. Oh,
yes. Right.
Such a cool shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and he's got his hand on the whatever that thing is that's attached
like a little
to the
pole,
door.
yeah.
Right. Right. And he's like, but what's really scary about that moment is, and remember, this is one of the amazing things. There's so many things about the movie that are just off, right? So let me blow your mind here with something you probably didn't catch. When Jack is interviewing, sitting at the desk in the beginning, right? And he's like, you know, I'm gonna be hired as the caretaker, and the guy's like, well, let me tell you a story. This guy chopped up his family, and hopefully that doesn't bother you so much where you wouldn't want to take the job, right? And he goes, no, you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't scare me. It won't scare my wife. We're fine. We'll take the job. What he says is, there's a caretaker who was here, killed his wife, and came here with his wife and two little daughters. One was 8, one was 10. Did they look like they were 2 years apart to you?
One was a little bit taller than the other.
They look like straight up twins to me.
Yeah.
Because things are just off. In the book, the room's 217. In the movie, it's 237. Right? Like, things like the music is inappropriate for the scenes that it's in. It's calm water, spooky music, right? So everything's off, right? And that's the thing is like when Jack is talking at the door, he's saying,
I think you hurt my head real bad. I'm dizzy. I need a doctor.
but his face does not look like someone whose head hurts or who's in pain or whatever. His face looks like, I can't wait for you to fucking open this door so I can.
Yeah, I caught that. I was
right,
like,
right.
It's very clearly just trying to do any,
and it
finding ways to get out.
Right, because you're literally witnessing something you have knowledge of that the other person doesn't have knowledge of, which puts you in a place of, it's that horror movie place. Like, don't open the door, don't open the door. Right?
Exactly, and it just gives you more to root for, or at least for me, to root for Wendy to be like, first of all, don't do it.
Totally.
Don't get out of it, because it's one of those things where, and I think every frame of painting did a thing about this with Buster Keaton, where the audience knows something before the character does.
Yes.
I think that was...
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
And that was the same thing, but with horror.
Yep.
We knew Jack had very bad intentions. I'm sure the wife knew too, obviously, because he had just chased her. But
honestly, she knew. You could tell that she knew, but like,
as an audience, she had a slight percentage to open that door, and you're like,
yes, exactly. And I think honestly, the thing that I don't even know if this, I wanted to say sucks, but I'm not sure sucks is the right even emotion for this. But I feel like if they didn't have a son and they had gone there as a married couple, she would have opened that door at that moment. I feel like she had to. She was like. I feel like she was, even at that moment, all the shit she went through, you could see on her face, she's such a caring person that if someone says, oh my God, I'm really hurt, her impulse is, I got to help.
Yeah.
But helping him screws her son. So that's it. She's, now she's like, I want to help you, but I'm not going to help you.
And that's what I liked about her acting was it seemed more caring than it did naive.
Yes.
She didn't seem like
that's a great way
She didn't seem like a dumb horror movie character where, I mean, how many horror movies where it's like, don't open the door, and the character goes, oh, I'm going to open the door, and they get killed. She played it off as like, I really want you to have like the best life possible, but you suck right now.
Yeah. That is the best way to put that.
I can't do it.
Exactly right.
And that's why I personally liked her performance.
And you were totally rooting for them. Honestly, the only performance that even intermittently bothers me, all of them are amazing. People who say almost no lines are amazing. The guy who's sitting in the chair at Jack's interview next to the guy who's hiring him, he was amazing. He had like one line, and he was still blowing my mind. Like his body language, his creepy little suspicious sideways looks, like he was just so good. Like Scatman Crothers is the only one who bothers me. Like I feel like there were just like Jack Nicholson goes over the top, but it's in service of a movie that needs him to go over the top.
Yeah. What part was it when he was like leaning down talking to Danny?
I liked the visual of when he was psychically talking to Danny. It was it makes you sad when you see something and then you feel like it dates, right? Like it makes you like
what scene was dated?
My God, I thought my iPhone 4 was the shit. Like whatever. Now you look at it and it's like a little sad, right? Like and it's kind of like the scenes where he's in the hotel watching TV, just hanging out, being Scatman Crothers, watching the news and like whatever. And he just there's something where I don't know. I mean, he was fine, but there was just something about his performance that wasn't. It felt a little phoned in, or he wasn't committed all the way to it. I don't know what it
I liked it. I mean, that's.
But there were other great moments.
That was the reason why I liked him. Like even when he's like talking on the phone to the guy trying to get the snow truck or whatever it was. Like
that was cool.
I like both of them because like one, he just seemed really sweet and really caring. Like, and that's why I was really sad. That's why like in my own head, I erased the tracks of him dying and replaced it with the book of him being alive.
Well done. I loved that he turned out to be just a great liar because when he calls and he's like, I need a snowcat to go up the mountain and go check on the hotel. And the guy's like, how am I going to get a snowcat that fast? He's like, let me be honest with you. The people in that hotel are unreliable assholes, and they're damaging the hotel, and my boss is making me go there, and I got to get there today or I'm in trouble. And the guy's like, oh, fine. Well, then I'll get you a snowcat. None of that's true. Like, has a psychic connection with a kid, but he can't say that. Like, here's why I'm checking on the hotel. I had a dream. Like, you know, so he just makes this thing up, but it's like flawless. Like, he just says it, right? And so, yeah, I mean, he's fine. You know, he's to me, he was the worst of a lot of great performances, which is still good, not bad, right?
Is his face that he makes when him and Danny talk, when he realizes, like, you know, shit's going down, is that what the book cover's supposed to be, of that weird, like, wide-eyed thing?
That's so funny you say that. I don't know, actually. I'll look that up, and I'll put the answer in the show notes. I remember the cover. I don't remember,
because I saw the cover and I was like, what does
I
this
feel
have
like
to do with the film?
the gray cover or the original,
the yellow. I think maybe the movie poster.
I don't remember that one. I remember the gray paperback cover from the original one, which I think was the kid himself. But I'm not sure. I'll look it up. But yeah, I mean, there are multiple characters in that movie who are just frozen wide-eyed in fear. I mean, it's a very common, right, like thing. So I don't remember which one it was.
But yeah, I just remember thinking like that. I made that connection, thinking maybe that's what that's supposed to be. I don't know. Fans, do let us know.
I'm sure they will.
Let me know if I'm right. Trying to think of what else was in the film that, I mean the ending when they finally get away. Like, I'm glad it ends. I'm still a little confused about Jack Nicholson character being in the photo. I Googled it immediately after watching the film. I'm still confused. Is it a ghost movie? Is it supernatural? Like, but I'm sure, like, maybe that's the whole intent of the
you should
film.
Be confused.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right, that's the point.
Exactly. So like, what's his deal?
Interesting. So I don't remember where I read this. We actually brought, and we recommend this highly. There's a book called The Shining: Studies in the Horror Film by Daniel Olson, and it's just an amazing source material on this movie. Like, the incredible. But I think I read somewhere, and it's by Centipede Press. I think there's somewhere in there where it tells the story of that Kubrick filmed a scene that was an epilogue and then took it out of the movie. And the intention was that Jack's body that we see frozen disappears and is not recovered.
Oh.
And then he's in the painting or the photo. So if that interpretation is right, like, he physically is pulled into the hotel, into the photo. No body left, no trace of body.
Gotcha.
If that's how that is meant, I could be wrong on how, and that could just be one interpretation of why
I'm sure there's, like,
took out right. But to me, like, the main point of, not the solution to that, because it's just going to always be a mystery, but like, the main point of that is, like, there's one last trick that the hotel is going to play on Jack. So Jack, as we discussed, he's trying to promote himself. He's trying to get, like, a new job. He's trying to fulfill his duties and be part of the best people. They say in the movie, the guy who's giving Jack the tour of the family of the hotel is like, only the best people stay here. We had presidents and royalty and celebrities, and so Jack, he looks so happy in that photo, that huge Jack Nicholson smile, and he finally got promoted. Like, he's the master of ceremonies. He's front and center of the photograph, right? And to me, the last trick is, when the next caretaker comes, you lose your job.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Grady was before you, and he was the caretaker, master of ceremonies, right? And then you came, and Grady became, like, the guy who cleans up the bathroom, right? So you think that you got promoted, and now you're in the photograph, and you're if you remember the ending of 1408, did you see?
I vaguely remember. I mean, I remember a lot from the movie, and I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember.
Because at the end, there's a funeral for John Cusack's character, and Samuel Jackson comes and brings his belongings to the widow, and there's this really sad scene where she refuses them and he just has to leave with the belongings. There's a jump scare in the car or whatever with Samuel Jackson. And then the camera moves over to the burnt out hotel room with the broken window. And John Cusack's just standing in this room. The ghost of him is standing in this room smoking a cigarette. And behind him, his child says something and he goes, "Oh yeah." And he walks toward his kid and that's it. So he's just forever hanging out with his child until they move on to somewhere better or they're just stuck there or whatever, like Ghost. And Jack Nicholson is like literally inhabiting this hotel as the master of ceremonies in his constant party, the way I look at it, until the next caretaker comes. And then he's got a big surprise coming from him, which is funny that he has one last surprise coming from him, because the line of his that I hate the most in the entire movie is when he's leaning up against that door when Wendy's got him locked in and she goes, "I'm going to go for help. I'm going to go get a doctor. I'm going to get in a snowcat." And he's like, "You're going to get in the snowcat?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to get in the snowcat." He's like, "You got a big surprise coming to you. Go check the snowcat. Go look. You got a surprise." And it's so mean, right? And the fact that I feel like that's his meanest verbal moment. And the fact that the hotel has like the same, like, "You got a surprise coming to you, Jack," is if that's right, then like I just think it's like perfectly appropriate.
I love that. So, and I haven't read Doctor Sleep. Is that the sequel
to The Shining? Yep.
How does that compare to? I mean, I know I'm comparing the movie to the book.
Yes.
To this next book. Is that connection?
Well, even book to book. I mean, honestly, the thing is, and I want you to, before we close out, I want you to talk a little bit about Stephen King's miniseries because of The Shining. But I really like Doctor Sleep. It's not The Shining, obviously. That's,
is it a continuation of?
It's a continuation of the story, but
of Wendy and Danny.
Yeah, Danny becomes he's a grown up and he's a recovering alcoholic, and the theme of alcoholism, which was implicit in The Shining, is explicit in Doctor Sleep. Like he's literally someone who's afflicted with The Shining. It's a curse. In the movie and in the original book, it's sort of blessing curse.
Yeah.
But it's just full on curse and far more depressing in Doctor Sleep, which I didn't like as much. And more importantly, as a horror fan, didn't find it as scary as what came before. But I appreciate that Stephen King was fleshing out the elements of there's one of my absolute favorite Shining stories is Stephen King. The Shining was his first big hit. Carrie was popular. It was his first book. And I think Salem's Lot was next. But none of them were mega hits. The Shining was a mega hit. And he was still struggling with alcoholism. And he was drinking late at night, and he woke up the next day and he was ferociously hungover. And the phone goes off early in the morning. And he thought someone was calling to tell him that one of his children had been injured. He was scared, and he was terrified of getting bad news when he was in a bad condition, not able to deal with it, like hungover, right? So he answered the phone, and it was Stanley Kubrick. And the reason Stanley Kubrick was calling this early was because there's a big time difference between England and where Stephen King was. And he said, "I want to make a movie out of The Shining." And this was the thing that was going to change Stephen King's life. One of the things that was going to change his life. And he's so hungover, like he can't even really enjoy it, right? Like at the moment. But and he said, Stephen King said that Stanley Kubrick said something really strange to him. He said, "I think horror movies are really optimistic because ghost stories imply that it doesn't all just end here. There's something after." And Stephen King said, "What about hell?" And he said, Stanley Kubrick said, "Oh, that's easy. I don't believe in hell."
Checkmate.
So, it's the fact that even post the writing and post success of Shining, that Stephen King was still struggling with alcoholism to the point where he was losing good moments in his life to being so hungover that it was hard to even track him, is just a sign of what he was going through when he wrote it. And Dr. Sleep is a person who went through a ferociously bad time, but isn't going through it anymore, remembering it.
Gotcha.
Right. And it feels like that. It's not as in the moment. So it's not as terrifying. Interesting, but not.
It's more of like a reflection
Right.
of all that stuff.
Exactly. So tell me about the.
So I remember watching this on TV. There's not a whole lot I remember from the miniseries. I ended up doing some research on it because once I figured out like what it was, because the one scene that I always remember are the hedges that are shaped like lion, the hedge animals, whatever you want to call them. There's a few that look like lions, and I remember seeing that scene on TV of those things coming to life. I didn't know it was like The Shining. I just thought it was another horror film of some sort.
Sure.
And I remember seeing that and thinking like, that is effing sweet. I love that. That is scary. That is terrifying. Yep. And then like we mentioned earlier, you know, I didn't think about this till now, but what a bush comes to life and tries to like gnaw on your leg. Does that hurt? Like, would it hurt? Like,
or would it just itch?
You could just get like a flamethrower. I mean, it's not like, you know, the imps or whatever they are in the Lord of the Rings where they're like taking out the orcs. It's like
right.
It's a bush. Like,
right, for sure.
But I thought in the miniseries it was great. And I looked it up and I looked up the differences. Apparently the miniseries is more faithful to the book.
Well,
is that true?
Yeah, here's the story. The story is that I want to believe Stephen King. Stephen King hates Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and he's had a running war on it for decades, which I think is just it's his
still.
Still it's his right. He's the creator of it, so I can't hold that against him. But you're the person you're fighting against is dead, so he can't defend himself anymore, right? So it just ends up being kind of like icky to me, right? But the story is that Stephen King wrote the screenplay for The Shining, gave it to Stanley Kubrick, and Stanley Kubrick threw it away. Mm-hmm. Might be a grudge situation going on at that point. I don't know. Who knows how someone reacts to something like that. But Stanley Kubrick and Diane Johnson wrote the screenplay for The Shining and didn't use anything that Stephen King used. Flash forward to the miniseries, Stephen King took that screenplay and used it. I don't think anything changed. I think it's the screenplay he wrote.
Oh.
It would have been Stanley Kubrick's The Shining if he used it, and he just made it.
Wow.
So that's it's very faithful to book because it's fucking Stephen King.
Yeah, it's like it's the same,
right,
the same thing.
Yeah.
But I remember like some of the differences was like Jack, instead of using an axe, to use like a croquet mallet.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of those. I don't remember.
That's kind of cool, actually. I thought the axe was a little over the top.
I dig both. Like axe is very horror film.
Right.
Croquet mallet's kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Totally.
But I just remember those lions and kind of being fascinated. I do want to go back after now watching Stanley Kubrick's Shining. I kind of want to check out the miniseries because I did enjoy. I know some people don't like it, but I enjoyed Rose Red.
Right. No, that's fine.
So I want to go back and watch that, and maybe we can do an episode on that because I know there's at least one killer scene I'm gonna
totally.
I'm gonna still dig.
Yeah, I hate the miniseries, but I it's been so long since I've seen it. And the problem is it makes me kind of a hypocrite because I have a feeling that one of the reasons Stephen King hates Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is people like me. Like that movie ruined the original visual vision of it. Like I still respect the book. But if you film the book in movie style and you don't give it that cold, icy, smooth, Stanley Kubrick patient, vibe, and you show me The Shining, I'm like, fuck you, that's not The Shining.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a problem. Like, that's my fault.
Because immediately, that was the first thing I just started, talking about how much I loved how calm and smooth the film was. So in fact, I might even do it, tonight is check out the miniseries, and I'll probably start messaging you like, no, fuck that. I don't like this. Go back. I want to go back to the.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure there's value in like whatever. It's funny that you remember the topiary animals so clearly as a scene that was one of the big changes that Kubrick made that Stephen King hated initially, and then sort of admitted was a good move given the technology of 1980, cinema wise, right? Like that was going to look ridiculous.
Yeah.
No matter what you did with that. So, it was almost like what how can we make this look? And it's not going to work. We got to change choice, right? I think it's a choice that Stanley Kubrick secretly liked because I mean he was a master chess player, and mazes are going to be more appealing to chess players than living bush lions.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to go back and check out the miniseries. If anything, at least just that one scene to see how the CGI has dated.
But it's a pretty good cast, and given that it's Stephen King itself, I'm sure there's some really like moments that are similar to ones that I would love in like It or Salem's Lot or something that probably feel more like him, that I would appreciate it if I gave it another chance. Now I just when I was watching it, I had the same impression I would have if you walked into the room, except for you were 3 feet shorter and had an English accent, and you told me you were Nick. I'd be like, you're a fucking imposter.
A terrible imposter.
You're a terrible imposter. This is not you. The Shining walked into the room and was like, "Hi, I'm the Shining. Here's a hedge animal." I'm like, "What?
No, get out of here.
No, you're not the Shining.
Get out of here." So I'm gonna check it out probably today and see how we feel. So and now I want to go back and watch Rose Red. Did you like that one?
I did.
I wanted to check it out again. So anything else to add?
No, that's it.
The
only thing is, there's so much material here. There's the novel, there's the backstory, miniseries, movie, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd love to hear from fans and listeners what their experiences of one or all or compare and contrast are.
Yeah, and if you've seen it multiple times, did you like it more, the second time around? Because I know I'm probably going to dig it more the second time.
Yeah, and did it scare you the first time? Particularly interesting.
Exactly. So until next time, start putting up your Halloween decorations because it's September. It's as our guest last week Alex said, it's Preptember. Start putting everything up. Hold off on the pumpkin though, because if you're like me, you'll get burnt out on pumpkin flavored that's instantly.
Extremely true.
Anyways, Halloween decorations. Enjoy us next time on Hollow Weekly.
Thanks, guys.
Anything you say, Lloyd. Anything you say.